Now, we've all celebrated the tiger with Bitu, but we also know that those wonderful animals symbolize the forests. And we should also know, I think we do know, those of you here, how much we depend on our forests and our ecosystems. They shape our planet, they shape our lives. In the UK, when we denuded the hillsides, we cut the trees down from the hillsides, the earth there becomes less of a sponge, the water rushes down the mountainside, and we either get flooded or we have to invest in what we call infrastructure, dams and reservoirs and canals and things, in order to protect ourselves from the flooding. We should think of that soil and those trees at the top of the hills on the mountainsides. We should see those as our infrastructure, our natural infrastructure, just as we would see the water management lower down. If we start to lose the Amazon forest, then thousands of kilometers to the south, the great city of Sao Paulo would be completely without water, because what they call the river of the sky would run out of water. That's what supplies Sao Paulo. And of course, the forests themselves are the biggest, most important sink for greenhouse gases that we have on the planet. If we damage our forests, we damage ourselves locally, we damage ourselves regionally, and we damage the climate for the planet as a whole. If we let the climate run riot, we will damage our forests. If we don't look after our forests, we damage the climate. They live together, and we live together as totally dependent on those things. So how well are we doing? Well, the answer to that is not very well. We are roughly 1 degree centigrade above the usual benchmark of the second half of the 19th century. It doesn't sound very much, but we're on the edge of the period where we became civilized. The Holocene period, the last 9,000 or 10,000 years, has been a benign, stable climate, plus or minus 1 degree centigrade. We're on the borders of that already. We grew up in the last 9,000 or 10,000 years. We started cultivating grains. They came from the grasses. We became agricultural. We became settled. That's who we are in large measure, in a very benign corridor, plus or minus 1 degree centigrade. We're on the edge of that. That's why in the Paris Agreement we said we have to stay well below 2 degrees. 2 degrees is already way outside that special benign Holocene period of the last 9,000 or 10,000 years. We're already moved out of that into the Anthropocene. We are ourselves making a profound difference to the planet. The planet's climate now is controlled by us and what we do. So 1 degree, already borderline. Staying well below 2 degrees, absolutely vital, but already into difficult territory. If everybody delivers what they promised to deliver in terms of emissions reductions in Paris, we would actually be heading for 3 degrees. And if we hadn't had Paris, we'd be heading for 4 degrees. We haven't seen 3 degrees on this planet for 3 million years. Homo sapiens, the generous definition of sapiens, has been around for 200 or 250,000 years. We haven't seen 3 degrees for 3 million. We've been around as Homo sapiens only for 250,000, and our basic civilization is just 9,000 or 10,000 years in that sense of being settled. So that is very dangerous territory. At 3 or 4 degrees centigrade, hundreds of millions, probably billions, would have to move because they were now in desert areas, because they were now flooded, because they were now battered by storms and hurricanes. They would have to move. If that many people move, you're very likely, if history teaches anything, to get conflict. And you can't make a peace treaty. You can't turn it off. You can't make a peace treaty with the planet. Those are the risks that we play for. So what can we do? As we say in India, what to do? Now, this what to do has to be not in resignation, but with a sense of purpose. And we actually know what to do. We can build our cities so that they are uncongested and clean. We know how to design them in this way. Much more cycling, much more walking, much more public transport, means of transport that are clean, not dirty. We understand all that, and we can get much better at it if we want to. We know about not cutting down the forests. We know about rehabilitating the grassland. We know how to do our agriculture in a different way. That decision now is up to us. There's still time. We're running out of time, but there's still time. But it's very important to understand that sense of urgency. We will double the economy of our planet probably in the next 20 years. We will more than double the infrastructure in that time. Will that extra economy we build, will that extra infrastructure, it will go up by an additional 1.3, 1.4, will that infrastructure be clean and uncongested, or will it be, like we have at the moment, dirty and wasteful? Well, it's our choice. We can do it one way or the other. If we do it in the sensible way, we have cities where we can move and breathe and be productive. We have ecosystems that are robust and survive and serve us well. Or we do it the other way. And it's entirely up to us. But this next 20 years will be decisive. Well, those decisions will determine whether this is the best of centuries or the worst of centuries. It's in our hands. So that is the choice we have to make now. For India, it's even more special. India will probably, if it grows at 7% for 20 years, and if that's good growth, we hope it does, that will quadruple. You'll be being 3 extra economies alongside the one you have. Are those 3 going to be clean and attractive and productive? Or are they going to be a bit like what we're starting to build now? That's a choice. India is in the good fortune of having started its urbanization a little bit later than other places. That is an enormous advantage. It's the advantage of being able to do things differently. I believe that India, which will be the driver of much of the world economic change in the next 20 years, has it in its hands to do it differently. When I look at the people in this room, I believe that India has the people to create this new world and to insist that it's done differently. And we will be much better off as a result. There's no horse race between living standards and climate responsibility. They come together. If we abandon one, we abandon the other. So India, I'm convinced, will be in the lead on this story. And I'd also like to recognize where we are in India, in Maharashtra. Maharashtra is in the vanguard. We're seeing here pioneering of water harvesting, commitment to growing forests, planting trees, building and protecting national parks. We're seeing the buildings of mass transit, metros and, of course, buses to go with them. We're all going too slowly. I'm sure that the world is going too slowly. Probably India's going too slowly. Even Maharashtra may be going too slowly. But there's a real opportunity here. Maharashtra is in the vanguard of India, and I believe that India is in the vanguard of the world. That's why I'm so happy to be here and so honored to speak to you tonight. Thank you very much.